Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. You know, we're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I get to welcome back actor, singer, writer, director, Wes Mack. So welcome, Wes. I guess welcome back, Wes.
Thanks so much for having me back. I've been looking forward to this.
I know we spent like 10 minutes catching up, off camera, mostly talking about Dungeons and Dragons, but
yeah, man,
we hit the important stuff.
We did. You got to cover a bunch of. You got to get at least 75% D&D content in there. Right out of the gate.
Well, so let me start this way, because we got a lot to catch up on. I'm thrilled to have you back. We had such a good time last time you came to visit. But let me ask you this. I'll start it this way. So over the last month or two, what have you been watching? Anything that you've been kind of binge watching?
I did. I guess over the last month, it was Last of Us and then Succession. So it was like total two different
sides. You picked some good ones, though.
Yeah, man. I guess a couple of the HBO, and I guess I rewatched Chernobyl in there as well.
What do you think of Chernobyl? I thought that was pretty well done.
Oh, yeah, I loved it. I rewatched that. I watched it a couple of years ago, and then I watched it again, and it's just so well done that, like, how Chernobyl ends. Like, it's not really, and based on when they start the series, they start at the explosion kind of thing. So it's not like a surprise. Like, is it gonna, or is it not gonna?
It's not really a happy story.
No, but it's so well done. The acting is so good. The writing, so I guess, I'm really rocking the HBOs right now.
So you didn't start Succession till the last season?
No, I watched the whole thing, but I resisted watching it for a long time. I think just because I'm terrible about judging a show before seeing even a frame of it. Of just Succession sounds like it's about a bunch of rich assholes. I don't want to watch that. And then
it totally is.
And it is. That's now I would say it's about a bunch of rich assholes, but it's well done. It's interesting. The characters are great. I honestly, my girlfriend started watching it. This is how I get into so many shows. She just had it on. She was watching the second episode, and she'll say, I dad watch it, where I just like kind of stand in the room like this.
Yeah.
And like I don't totally sit down. And then she's like, "Are you gonna sit down and watch this?" And I'm like, "No, I'm just making some food or whatever."
Yeah.
watching, and then by halfway through that episode, I'm sitting over on the couch
Yeah,
doing
right.
like, and then
Then you have to go back and watch the one you
yeah,
missed.
yeah. And then I usually get to do that. Because I kind of watched scattered through season one, and by season two, I was fully hooked. And then I just went back and rewatched season one, so I've got the whole thing sewn up. But yeah, I just finished watching that. It's great.
Those are pretty good ones. That's
yeah.
I watched
Yeah.
Fall of the House of Usher. Was
Oh, cool. How's
really
that?
well done. Oh, it's really well done. If you're an Edgar Allan Poe fan, it's pretty
Sweet.
great because it basically takes every Edgar Allan Poe story and puts it in the same one.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I don't know I don't know anything about it. I just saw the title floating around.
Yeah, it's good. It's
that sounds very cool.
Yeah, it's I didn't realize it. I assumed it was just going to be the story Fall of the House of Usher, and it is, but it puts in all of them, like every story.
Interesting.
Every episode is named after a different Edgar Allan Poe story. So
that's very cool.
Yeah, it's really well done. Really well done. And then I'm on the last episodes of the second season of Bosch Legacy, which I think that Bosch show is really good. And then Generation V, which is like the Boys spinoff.
Okay, cool. I have not seen either of those. I'm chronically bad about like where it's an interesting era we're in of like the monoculture TV thing isn't so, like there's very frequently somebody will be like, have you seen the show? And I've never heard of the show whatsoever. But then I'll look it up. I'm like, that sounds like so up my alley. I gotta watch.
I know it's almost like we have too much.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of the whole like streaming shattering into a million pieces has created this weird like, yeah, there's just like an insane amount of content, can't possibly keep up with it all, but the crank needs to keep turning faster, the whole thing collapses. I don't know. It's I think that's a lot of what's trying to be worked out right now within the whole streaming model.
Yeah, I hope that they get it figured out soon.
Yeah.
They haven't inspired me with confidence so
far. No, I was told very early on by someone I know kind of in the industry side of things, like this is going to be a very long one. Like they're just so far apart on where this is going.
I know, and it's so ridiculous. I mean, obviously you need to pay if you use somebody's likeness.
Oh, I know.
There's some
of them that are no brainers.
Streaming stuff. I mean, that just people need to get paid a livable wage.
It really is. I mean, like every actor will say this, and that's the same experience with me. I will make residuals on a bad TV movie that I'm in that came out 10 years ago. I'll make more residuals on that than being in like I was in a Netflix show a year ago that was, the number 2 show in the world for like 3 weeks or something. And that's not me actually just like sandbagging Netflix. That's more to be just saying like that's the streaming model. Typically, the issue is that like the laws tend to follow behind the tech in all industries where it's like, cool, at some point we switched from, things are in theater to like VHS tapes at home to more of a cable model. And like at each stage in that, the residuals are always one move behind and they have to keep moving to stay on it to keep everyone like able to, feed their families and stuff.
That's it. I mean, it's not like everybody's trying to get rich.
No, because most actors, like it is one of those odd professions because you have the like super famous A-list actors, which is what you think of when you think of actors. But like the vast majority of working actors are indeed working actors who are just like, and that's the majority of people in the whole film industry. Like it is this glitz and glamour industry, but most people is like are bringing home like very average salary and wages kind of thing, and working really long hours.
You're working long hours. You live in cities that it's not cheap to live in.
Yeah, and that's a big thing.
I mean, if the film industry was in Charleston, West Virginia, you might be able to survive.
Oh, dude, I think about that all the time where it's just like, it's kind of this odd thing where it requires like the places where most film is made are the most expensive places to live, which is challenging where because you need those crews. Like you in those cities have people that are the most talented in the world at what they do. But they got to live there, I know.
I don't know what the answer is, but I know that it's not the model that we have right now.
Yeah. And the AI one is to me seems like a pretty easy answer where it's just like, if you're gonna use someone's likeness, you got to pay for it.
You should have to pay every time you use it. That's silly not to think that.
I mean, but we're about to have that question need to be answered in every industry in the world. Like it's coming for everything, and we're gonna have to make some serious decisions as to how that's regulated because there will be no job, in my opinion, that isn't affected by it, pretty notably. And if you don't regulate that early on and get on top of that,
Oh, it's going to be messy.
yeah, it's going to be messy. I think either way, but yeah. So that's
So
where that's at right now.
we've been enjoying you in transplant.
Well, thank you.
Yeah. So you showed. I didn't even realize that you were coming on there until I saw you on it. But
oh, cool. That's even better. That's better when it can
it's
be a
what it's like
surprise.
the fourth season now.
Yeah.
Yeah. So talk about that a little bit. What's your role on the show?
Yeah, so I play Dr. Ryan Ashcroft. I'm a resident at like a new one in, and I get tossed in there with June and Novak. And how to reveal without revealing. Just I'm there's a lot of pressure on me, and the pressure might be a problem. So it's getting to experience that. It was a lot of fun. A bunch of people in my family laughed and were like, "Oh, we finally got a doctor in the family," kind of thing.
Oh.
But
maybe you'll learn something where you can.
It was cool in that. So you go to audition for something like that. And it's funny when you're doing like a procedural like that, like one of the audition scenes is surgery, and you're having a conversation, but you're also doing stuff with your hands. But when you're auditioning, obviously you're not in a hospital, you're sitting in a room like this. And so I remember for mine, I took a piece of paper and I took 6 paper clips, and I would just be putting them on and taking them off, but I do a frame, and you try and do it as quickly as you can. And it just gives you something real to do rather than just miming it. I find that kind of stuff is really helpful. I've had a number of acting teachers over the years who've just been like you can fold a towel, fold and unfold a towel. You can coil up a piece of string. Like, just give yourself something real to do so that you're not miming it. And then, because that's not really, the scene is about what's going on up here.
That's right.
But it gives you something real to do. Now, however, though, when you get cast on that, I had that moment being like, oh, are they going to tell me what to do? Like, because it's different when you're winging it and you're in a scene where you're reading a book. You can probably, you can probably do that. But when you're supposed to be performing like, pretty advanced surgery of some kind, I was gratefully thankful to find out that in the week beforehand, we had like a whole medical rehearsal. They brought in a bunch of doctors and nurses who
there you go.
keep us through like, here's exactly what you're doing. And apparently they do that every week on that show. As like sort of they take any of the medical procedures and be like, cool, we're going to break this down. We're going to spend like an entire day just getting you topped up on how to do that. And they're going to bring in directors and cinematographers and get everybody figuring out how we're going to make this look real.
That's smart on their part.
Yeah, it makes it on the day of, so it's not chaos. And so for me, the biggest thing is any character that I come into play, I want to honor that profession or that life or whatever it is. And in that instance, me alone, Google searching is not going to be sufficient. Like I did look up a bunch of the stuff beforehand.
You can't perform surgery after?
Yeah, it turns out, I would say, I was laughing. I was like, at the end, I'm like, well, if we were in a medical situation and I needed to perform just a very narrow slice of this one thing, I could maybe achieve that for you. But if you need anything else, you're gonna have to call somebody else. So it's a well-oiled machine on that show. So it was great getting to do that and have that experience and try and honor the.
What was the terminology like? Did you have to learn?
Yeah, I mean, there's a run I go on where I rattle off like 10 medical terms in a row, and they've intentionally made it so like it's the Dr. Novak says like, cool, what's the treatment plan for this, and it feels very like teacher student moment where I'm supposed to be rattling off something. I'm not going to try and do it right now because I've since forgotten the sequence of words, and of course, as with these things, there's always rewrites at the last second, so like a few of the words changed, and fortunately that stuff doesn't rattle me too much. My memory is for that kind of thing is very quick, so I can read something once or twice and bring it back. Also, you have the advantage in that situation. If you're not actually, I'm supposed to be a resident, I'm not supposed to be the master in that situation. If you need a second to pause, to stumble on a word or something, I think that all just makes the performance more human at the end of the day. It's trickier when you're supposed to be the master in a given situation.
Yeah, that's a good point, because if you're a newer resident, you're still learning too. So
100%.
You stumble a little bit and stuff, it probably just makes it seem more realistic.
I think so. I think if it's flawless execution, it sounds like you just rattled off something you memorized that doesn't quite read right. Yeah. You look at those shows where like watch like The Bear. I don't know if you've seen it. It's
Oh
all
yeah, I like The
cooking.
Bear.
Yeah,
That's a stressful show.
oh yeah, is it ever? And you watch that, and you watch though, like, when Carm's working in the kitchen, he looks like a master. Like he
Yeah.
and yet that actor isn't, I don't think he has any particular like cooking background that exceeds,
Right.
but they've equipped him, with the right people. And the guy who plays Fax on the show, I found out, is like an actual like master chef,
Oh
even though
really?
his character doesn't cook at all on it. So he is apparently one of the guys they go to. He watches the takes, and he's the one critiquing and being like, no, you wouldn't handle the knife like that, like, no, you
Love
wouldn't
that.
do that like that. So it's funny that he plays a character who like has no idea how to cook, but is one of their like absolute last lines of defense on the show of keeping things real.
Yeah, that's actually really interesting. Like that's a show we love it, but
Yeah.
it's one we have to time when we're watching it because
Mm-hmm.
it's stressful to watch. Like you can't watch it right before bed.
No, 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 it's such chaos, kind of like that. The Christmas episode from this most recent
Oh
season
my
is just
gosh.
like, it's pure chaos.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I just love that show.
Yeah,
I
it's a good
I
show.
I think what they do a great job of on that is taking a profession and intentionally giving you, like, not spoon feeding to you, like, here's what everything is in this. For me, as someone who has not worked in like the back of a restaurant, I still very much enjoy it. And then I'll be watching it with like my girlfriend who has in the past worked in restaurants, and she'll be like, "Yep, yep, super, like that's exactly." And both of us still get a lot out of it. So that to me is always cool when you execute that well on a show that's about a profession. If you can be nailing it for like people from outside that and inside that, then you're doing something
You're doing something
really
right.
right. Yeah, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I could see you on that show. I'm sure you could be on there
I could do
as
some cooking.
maybe as a food critic.
Yeah, yeah, I'd like that, man. Anything to get onto that show. It's just there's something about TV that's just done very well, where like where the writing is great. It can pull you into like Succession.
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of just watching people be asshole rich people, but that world pulls you in with the characters and the writing and the arcs they're on. The Bear, very different show, kind of thing. Like, I mean, I've said this in the past. Like, I'm a big fan of like sci-fi fantasy stuff, kind of thing. Those shows don't sit in that world, but like when you reach a certain pedigree of quality, anyone's story can be very interesting if you tell it authentically, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've got a niece that is going through residency right now.
Oh wow.
And yeah, so she watches that show. So I asked her, I was like, how did he do? That it's really realistic. They do a good job with that.
Sweet. Yeah, it's so great it's great to hear that. I've heard that from some of the, medical people in my life as well, where it's just like, but yeah, we had a doctor literally there for every take, being like, and they would ask like, would you say this or would you say it like this? Like, would you shorthand this? Would it be a short form of this, or would it be the long name of that drug? And he's like, oh, if you're in a rush, it might be that, or it literally coming down to like, okay, when the questions of like, okay, costumes wants you in this amount of scrubs and PPE, and they're like, well, no, you would have this mask on for this, but this person who just came in might just be putting theirs on, and it really gets down to the minutia of when those things actually happen, which I man, anytime you can have that kind of thing going on set, I love leaning on the real world people to be
Sure.
there, because otherwise you're just kind of making it up. And then like what I'm there to do is, I know how to be an actor. I know how to like connect with the other people there, the story, the character stuff, but like you can only have, I can't fully absorb the medical profession between the time I'm cast and when we're shooting. So that's when you lean on those professionals to like, give you that bit of juice.
Yeah. 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 Well, and yeah, it's really well done. And I think this is the last season, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like this. We're coming to the grand
It
finale
surprised
on
me.
this
I
thing.
assumed, you get used to once a show gets past its first or second season, you're like, all right, 7 seasons.
Yeah, yeah. I was kind of surprised as well. But you just never know in this day and age of like
Yeah.
how the financial model behind all of this
Well, and
works,
it's
and
a
like
lot
what
of
the
times it's
decision.
just if the story's complete, it's complete.
Yeah. No, and I respect, you look at that on like a show like Succession kind of thing, like
Mhm.
it probably had the popularity juice to still go for a couple more
Oh
seasons.
yeah.
And I'm sure there's a bunch more things that they could have mined. But if the creators at some point go like, it is cool when a show can go out on its absolute strong foot to be like, cool, we're at the
Rare.
top of our game. Yeah. It will, and especially because it becomes that financial decision where you might have, even if creators want to wrap it up, if like studios and networks go like, well, no, this is like, we've put all this money in and now we want to ride the cash cow for a while here. And like, fair enough. That's like, that's their thing to do. So you get that push pull of like, wanting to maintain quality and they want to make their mony back on it. And so it's trying to figure out how you
It
stick a
never works
landing.
out though. Like
No, not when
they
you ride it
extend
into the
the show too
ground, man.
long. Yeah, it the last season or two is usually a step below.
Well, and it's you take a show like Game of Thrones kind of has this fabled ending that didn't go well for it
Right.
in its final season, and it really messes with the legacy of the show. Like
It
that
does.
show was so beloved for many seasons, and now it more often gets brought up as like a butt end of like how not to end a
I
show, which
know.
probably
Yeah.
isn't fair when you look at like the body of what that show
Yeah.
was, because there's a lot of beautiful moments in that, and people were really invested, but a lot of people remember how it ended, and that like a lot of folks weren't
I
very
know
happy with it.
it's kind of a cautionary tale of going faster than the source material is written.
Yeah, and tricky on that because is George Martin ever gonna like
I don't think
write the
he
last
does.
two? I don't. I think we talked about this. My bet's Brandon Sanderson's gonna get that
Yeah.
one dumped on his desk as well, and he's just gonna be laughing. He'll have Robert Jordan. He'll have his stuff. I mean, the man's so prolific
He's just,
that
I feel like he's just waiting for the call.
yeah,
Like he's
yeah,
already prepping for it.
yeah, he's probably got it written, man. It wouldn't surprise me, because he wheels out his like secret project books and stuff. When you're like, how are you doing this? Because you
Yeah.
look at his progress, like I'm still just a baby of his stuff. I'm reading Rhythm of War right now. I've got 100
Yeah.
pages left, and then I'll be caught up on the Roshar stuff.
Yeah.
But and then I think I might do Mistborn or something like that after.
Yeah, he's a good writer.
But yeah. But so I feel like I could see it landing on his desk because he's kind of where he's at career wise, paired with the fact that he closed out Wheel of Time. Maybe
I
it
mean, do you
falls to
think
him.
they approach him and be like, we'd like you to finish this out, and he just like goes behind his desk and grabs one, the volume and hands it to him?
Maybe
It's
just
like,
like I
yeah,
just had
just
some
do this
thoughts.
just in case.
Yeah, like you wonder because it's interesting if Martin would have a bunch of notes on how to close it out, or if he would want to make revisions based on the TV show. Like, if that
Yeah.
was what he was thinking, maybe he goes, like, I to me, it would be very satisfying, I think, for a lot of Game of Thrones fans who didn't love how the show ended, to be like, cool, we're gonna totally go a different direction entirely, and we're just gonna have it just to me, there's something so strange that if in so books last longer than TV shows typically. Like people are still like reading books from hundreds of years ago, where,
Oh
where
yeah.
films don't usually, stick around quite. They get remade, they get changed,
Right.
they become beloved, but maybe you don't throw it on every day. So strange if in 100 years someone is reading the Game of Thrones Song of Ice and Fire, they get done book 5 and they go, all right, where's book 6? And they go, actually, you need to watch a TV show from
That's
100
right.
years ago. Uh, all right, so buckle up.
Yeah, if
We
you
got to
want
do
an
it.
ending, yeah,
It's
I
only
know,
coming
I
there.
know, and that's always been one of my favorite book series. And I was the
Yeah.
same way. It like ended, and I was like, oh, that was very disappointing.
Yeah, it was just it felt weird. It just felt like at some point we got on a different ride in
Right.
the middle of that thing.
Well,
Because
yeah, we
I
know
read the
when.
books of that
As
too.
soon as
Yeah.
they passed up Martin's writing, I mean, they just weren't able to duplicate the dialogue.
No. It just I mean, that to me, it would have been really actually quite scary as a
I mean,
creator to
because
be like,
don't you figure they probably basically gave you the ending that he was going to give you? It just wasn't as well written as he did.
yeah. And I don't know, man. It's a tough show where you've just done so much of like, it's a show like it reminds me of like Lost as well, when
Yeah.
when you throw all these questions out, and then the really tough thing is deciding in the end how many of them do you actually answer, because if you answer none, you piss everyone off because
That's
it's
right.
like, well, you just had no idea. If you answer them all, the mystique falls away to nothing.
Right.
And then it's like, so which questions do you answer? Do we deal with the White Walkers? Do we deal with the like
Yeah.
who's taking the throne? Like what things remain ambiguous? Yeah, it's tricky to finish something like that without source material anymore. Is
Pretty tough. Well, and we
yeah,
can see the difference because Dance of Dragons first season was great.
Yeah.
But Martin was very involved in that season, and I think that's the difference. Dialogue's not easy to do.
No, it's not. Yeah, it's definitely tricky, and in all that kind of any like high fantasy stuff is really challenging when I feel like the reason it does best oftentimes to be adaptations of books is like it takes so much time to world build those kind of places that it's really tricky to do that in just a TV show. It's helpful when you kind of spent 1,000 pages each book building world kind of thing. And then you have all that rich stuff to mine from, as opposed to like, okay, TV show coming from nowhere on that on like on sci-fi fantasy stuff can be trickier for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. So last time you were on, I think you had just finished Guilty Party.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, and we love that show. That was it was really well done, and of course Kate Beckinsale. I mean, you can't.
Yeah, she's wonderful.
Yeah, she's pretty amazing.
Yeah. No, I had just like such a good time making that, and I get to do that in my hometown of Calgary. And like getting to work with that whole crew, and Kate was just like next level. So the whole thing, it was a lot of fun, and I was just a little shithead hellraiser in that show, which is very fun to play.
I know. I'm still waiting for you to get that role where you get to sing.
Yeah. I've got a few. Actually, I have a Christmas movie coming out later this year where I do some singing.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. Actually, that'd probably be the most singing I do in any.
Are you singing Christmas songs?
Yeah, I am singing Christmas songs in it. Yeah. So it's a bunch of like Christmas classics and stuff like that. And then some stuff I get to track in my studio. So I'm looking forward to that. It was very fun to make. It was very cold.
Was it a Hallmark one, or was it somebody else?
Yeah, I think it'll be through Hallmark. I don't actually know. Sometimes when you shoot these things, you won't know the network while you're working on it because they're still ironing out all the distribution deals country to country. And it's above my pay grade to know what's going on there. I show up and sing for my supper, and at some point they tell me what's going on.
I know it's acting to me is I'd have trouble with that part of it. Like when you're done with your work, but then it's just kind of out there in limbo. You're just waiting.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Oh, totally. It's way more like in music, that's like being a hired gun. Like if I hire a guitar player to play on a song, they experience what an actor experiences. They come in, they do their part, and then the song might not come out for another couple of years, and they probably won't be involved in like the marketing or really have any knowledge of what's going on there. Same deal being an actor. You're a small cog in it. Your thing is to show up, even if you're in like a larger role in it. You show up for your couple months or weeks or days or whatever it is. You do your bit, but then it's editors, directors, producers, all the post production, all the marketing. I kind of like that personally, being an actor, that it is out of my hands. Sometimes I feel like I deal with a lot more of that as a musician, where it's like your responsibility to carry the ball all the way to the end. I kind of love, as an actor, you just get to be a creative on it, and you show up and then you wash your hands of it. And sometimes it turns out great, sometimes not so much. Sometimes you're cut out of the final product. Sometimes the project never comes. Like I have things I've shot that just never aired.
I mean, I guess if you stressed about that stuff, you'd be stressed all the time.
Yeah, and that stuff I feel resigned to the fact that I have no control over it.
Yeah,
there are many things that I have no control over that I still try and have control over. That's one where I'm like, oh yeah. I mean, like once I'm done filming, there's nothing I can do about that.
I start getting stressed if we go more than a few weeks after I've interviewed somebody and we haven't posted yet. But actors, that I never get complaints or even questions about when an episode's coming out, because they're used to waiting. They're just like a couple weeks, nothing.
Man, I've shot things that come out, it's 2 years later kind of thing, or like I just put out an album where I'd probably finished recording all the music on it 1.5 years before it came out, just because that's how the timing of it ended up being.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. So this is your new one, right? This will be your third album. Is that right?
Third album, Hummingbird. So that, it's funny. This has been the case everything I've ever put out, and most musicians I talk to, same deal, and actors. By the time the thing comes out, you're working on something that will come out a year later, kind of thing, that won't materialize. Like by the time the thing is done and it's all ready and it's been packaged together properly to come out, you're working on the next thing. So sometimes it's this really kind of weird feeling of you have to like throw yourself back into like sometimes when I'll do an interview for something, I shot it a year and a half before, and like, or if it's like, there's been things I've worked on where you work on something. There's a movie I was in that I'm in like a lot of the movie, but due to some really weird schedule stuff, my role was supposed to film over a week and it got compressed to one day. We shot like 25 scenes in a row in the same room. I was the guy in the chair. It's this horror movie called Girl House. And so it's constantly cutting back to me, just like doing stuff. And it's like you'd think watching the movie, like, oh, that guy must have like worked on this movie for a while. Like we shot it in one day. And then it was 2 years in post-production until it came out. So when I ended up like thinking about it and talking about it later, it's odd because it's like, it's this movie that I'm in. But for me, that was like 14 hours of my life is that movie kind of
well,
thing.
And you've moved on.
Yeah, totally. And you have to, because otherwise you go crazy, waiting for those kind of things where it's like, you'll be in something, it's going to come out, and then they go, oh, like a lot of times, the studios, networks, they're all trying to, secure better agreements where they go, oh, cool, we can get this better distribution agreement for international, but it's going to take us a few months to sort it out. That's worth waiting for.
Sure.
It does. So they're going to chase that down, and you move on to the next thing, and just go play D&D and keep yourself busy.
Yeah, just keep yourself busy. Well, so what's the significance of Hummingbird? Where'd you come up with the title?
So I owe the title to my girlfriend for sure. So some
I'm
of the
sensing
records,
a pattern.
yeah, I owe a great deal to her. She's another artist and creator and actress and filmmaker, and so we do a whole bunch of stuff together. A lot of the like video content and the music video that'll come out with this is all shot by her and directed by her. Her name's Emma Flemington. She's great. So I did a bunch of this album up here at my cabin, but I also did a bunch of it in Vancouver. At just a lot of it literally was recorded in my apartment there and the cabin up here because it was in and out of like COVID lockdowns, and so it wasn't really possible to travel. So a lot of the record was done like that. And outside our studio window, my girlfriend had put up like a hummingbird feeder, and so we would have a hummingbird would stop by to drink out of it every single day and would come in, look at us, and would stick around and got pretty comfortable with us. Where like if we were sitting out on the deck, it would fly up and it would curiously look at us and fly away. When it came time to name the record, she had said like, oh, like hummingbirds are the only birds that can fly forward and backward. And I was like, man, that feels applicable to the last couple of years and like working on this and all the starts and stops. And so it was that paired with just sort of the like magical, quixotic, shimmering quality that a hummingbird has to it. I just find anytime you ever see one of those, everybody shuts up and it's like,
you're right. Everybody watches when
there's something pretty cool. So that was the metaphor of it and the reality of it, and why I called it Hummingbird.
Yeah, I love it. And you've been releasing songs though previously, right? Now,
a bunch of stuff. Even when we talked back in 2021, I would have had "Don't Change" out, which is off that record. So that would have been like the first single off of it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Well, and is "Looking For You" on there as well?
Yeah, "Looking For You" is on there. "Ain't Got You's" on there. "Be Without You's" on there. Those are the three that end in "you." You realize that when you record a record. There's a handful of others. I threw on a couple of the other kind of like bonus versions too. There's a different mix of "Looking For You" that we initially had just done for satellite radio that I ended up really liking, so we put that on, and we included a demo mix of or a demo version of "Ain't Got You," which I just produced entirely myself. There's actually a couple songs on there. "Be Without You" and "House of Love" are ones that I produced on my own and played everything on, which is the first time I'd ever released something that like, usually I'm comfortable as a producer, but typically in the past I more just saw myself as like a demo producer, and I would like collaborate with other people and co-produce things. But this album lent itself to some of that, like just working on things on my own. Some of that out of necessity, and some of it I just really enjoyed. It was a cool creative exercise because you when you're not hiring out all the parts and you're not getting someone else to produce it, you have your own limitations. Right. And I kind of like that sometimes because it makes you find a creative way to do something rather than being like, well, cool, I'll just put a masterful player here to like flourish and distract you from whatever is happening at this point in the song, which I have that on other songs for sure. But this was an instance where it's like, cool, I'm as good a guitar player as I am, as good a bass player as I am, as good a singer as I am, and that's how we're going to do this. I kind of like that. It makes you sit there and just puzzle out like, oh, cool, what's an interesting way to make this part work.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. I think it's a neat way to do it. I'm still getting used to the let's release 2 or 3 songs before the album comes out.
Yeah.
But I kind of like it. It kind of makes you anticipate.
Totally. And it's this different, like, there's this side of me that is used to like sort of a classic music industry era when, like, me going to like an HMV and buying a CD. That's my era of like what I really enjoyed, and that you'd consume a record like that. But when you look at the way the streaming model works for it, is oftentimes once you release the album, there's no longer anything new on it to be the like streamer tracks anymore. So you kind of have to, like, any track that you want to feed to the streaming algorithm, it has to come out in advance and have its chance to spin up, and then it almost all of those things end up being like the calling card for the record that drops at the end. It's like a total inversion of the cycle kind of thing that used to exist.
Yeah, right, and it makes sense for how we consume music now.
Totally.
But I do have a little bit of getting used to with that.
Because, oh yeah, totally.
Just going
I got a soft spot in my heart for the way it was in that. It's the same as, like, I mean, I still love Blockbuster Video. I still like that experience. And I'm like that with a lot of things. I got a bunch of film cameras up there. We actually the music video for That's My Country, which is on the record. The music video will come out for that in a little bit. Working on it right now, but we shot the whole thing on Super 8 film. Nice. So this is the first time I've ever actually shot something on film. I've done a bunch of film photography and I've directed a lot on like digital, but this has been a new experience because you can't watch back your takes. You can't see if something worked quite right. So we just last week I just shipped off a box of film cartridges. Actually, I have like a couple more of them here that I have to still like package up and send.
I mean, there's freedom in that, though.
Yeah, there totally is. You shoot it, you forget about it, and I'll find out. They're gonna, it's still a semi-digital era, and that I'm not gonna cut this with a razor blade. It's like that's one step beyond what I'm gonna do. They're gonna send me digital files of film, but it is still like you shoot it once, and
that's what you got.
Move on. Yeah, totally. So we're gonna find out what I got.
Yeah. Are you planning to tour at all with this album?
Mm-hmm. Probably next summer. I'll be looking at that. I also, mainly right now is just the push has been to get the album out, to having the appearance on Transplant, and then having this Christmas movie be coming out. And then I've got a handful of songs that I've written for a bunch of other artists right now that have been coming out this year. So
yeah, I was going to ask you about that. Is there like how do you know if a song is for you or for somebody else? I mean, do you go in knowing that you're writing it for somebody else, or do you like, okay, this one maybe it doesn't fit me as well as it does somebody else?
Totally. And sometimes you can get that kind of scenario where you wrote it, maybe you thought it was for yourself, maybe you end up pitching it to someone else. Personally, I've had the most success and enjoy most if I'm writing for someone else, knowing I'm writing for them, going and listening to their body of work in advance. I really like to do my homework on that kind of thing. And like, I'll if I'm going to be writing with an artist and I don't know them, I'll call them up beforehand, or I'll send them a message and be like, hey, like, tell me a little about you. Tell me a little about what you're going through. If there's anything you're really chasing after that you want to put into a song, tell me some of your favorite songs right now. Like, what are you listening to? I like to try and get inside their head a little bit. Sure. So you don't just come in and drop, if the person has just gone through a heart-wrenching breakup and you come in with a party song that you want to write, maybe that works, maybe it doesn't, maybe it feels a little disconnected from where they're at in their life. So I try and tailor that kind of stuff when I'm writing for another artist to really make it, feel like it's going to fit them, and then we can work together and build from there.
Yeah. Which makes sense.
But it's funny because a lot of people don't do that. I know a lot of co-writers are just like to come in and will just write whatever they're feeling at the time, and that's fair. I see it as kind of, when I'm in writer mode like that, I see it as I'm serving their artistic agenda. I don't try and come into it with my own, like, this is what I need to do today. I try and bend it towards, because if it's going to ultimately be them singing it, like, that's the real test of, like, if we're ever going back and forth on if a lyric is going to work or not, I'm always the guy asking, like, do you want to say that? Like, imagine yourself standing on a stage. Do you want those words to come out of you? And like 9 times out of 10, that answers it like that, where they go, oh yeah, or oh, absolutely not. Because that's the real thing. Like, you can debate yourself into a corner of if this something's too vague or ambiguous or too on the nose, but like, the person who's going to know is the person who's going to sing it.
That's right.
That's all that's going to matter. It's not rocket science. I just feel like you just have to, like, kind of get on the ride and be like, cool, you gonna have fun with that? Is this gonna make the thing happen for you? Then let's do that. Get everybody else's ego out of the way.
Yeah. And I think that's what usually screws it up, is the ego.
Yeah. If you get into a write, and I've been in these for sure, where somebody wants to make sure they're contributing, half the song, like they need to have, it really nukes the whole thing. I've got songs that I've written that have been successful where I've written every word of the song almost, and songs where I've written almost none of the words of the song. And I don't think that necessarily dictates how involved you are. Sometimes your job is to be a filter. Sometimes your job is to be a generator. Sometimes your job is to, like, there's guys I write with who I love them to death, are kind of like, maybe not even the most like prolific or talented songwriters, but are tremendously fun people to hang out with in a songwrite. And I mean this, they will make more good songs happen by virtue of having them there. They will contribute a few good lines, but they will keep the general energy of the room on an even keel, because they're like, it's such a house of cards. And if people all of a sudden reach a point where they just feel like it's not working, it's collapsing, energy in the room dies, song doesn't get written, everyone goes home unhappy. Sometimes you just need those kind of people who like keep hyping things up throughout.
Well, that's the case with any profession. You need the good energy people, even if they're not really able to contribute, as far as
there's good energy people I call for sure on writes where I'm like, I know we'll write a good song if we've got them in the room. They might not contribute the majority of the lines, but they will keep the train moving throughout the whole thing. And that too, I mean, managing people is so much of life, right? I mean, it's any creative thing, like any film set I've been on. Energy collapses, things get depressing, things get dark, things get too tense. Nothing else good will happen from there on in. It doesn't matter how talented everybody is, the whole thing falls apart.
I went to Austin City Limits, the music festival. So I got to see Shania this year.
Nice.
Yeah, I thought of you when I saw her. I was like, oh,
thank you.
Yeah,
appreciate that. She's wonderful.
Yeah. I'm ready for you to take your turn.
Oh, dude, I would love. I'm talking. I want to get down to that. I've never been to Texas. That's like very much on my. Yeah. One of my buddies living down in Texas right now. I want to go visit him down there at some point. We'll see how well I do in the summer months there as a very redheaded dude.
yeah, it's hot. Yeah, it's I love that festival, but it can be a little bit miserable during the day.
Yeah.
You're just out there in the open and it's just beating down on you.
I remember going to I went to Coachella 12 years ago, kind of before Coachella became the like cool spectacle. Like, I remember I just wore like a t-shirt and shorts. I feel like now I would stand out at Coachella as just being like not cool enough. I was just like
that's basically me at every festival.
I had
everybody's decked out and I'm just in a t-shirt and a pair of pants.
Yeah, I specifically brought runners so that I could run between stages, because I had my buddy who went, we're like, we want to see this band. It was all about music, of just like, okay, if we run from this one to this one, we can catch the start of that. But yeah, I just remember being nuked by like the first few days of it. It was so hot, and we were in the like tent camping area where it was there was car camping, those people had a little more in supplies, and there was tent camping, and it was, you would come in just with what was on your back, and it was like a pretty rough section. Like, but I remember I think for food we had a flat of water, half of which we'd replaced with vodka, and we had apples and bagels with nothing on them, just like plain white bagels, and that was what we had brought for food.
You
And
were
then the
very
rest,
prepared.
oh, it was just like, get up, you drink your water, you drink your vodka, you eat your carbohydrate, and you have an apple, and we're off for the day. And like by the end of 4 days of that with the sun, like
Yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
dicey.
Yeah. You need a vacation from your little.
Oh yeah, do you ever?
Yeah. I know.
Yeah, man, it was a time.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Well, Wes, thank you so much for spending a little bit of time. I was super excited to hear you were coming back on. You always have such good stuff, and I love your music. I think it's
Thanks, man.
yeah, it's you're so talented with that. Is it before when I talked to you, you didn't really have a preference. Are you still in that? Sometimes
Yeah.
I'm an actor, sometimes I'm a singer.
Yeah, I like both of them. They don't feel that different to me. I mean,
Yeah.
the actual thing you're doing is different, but if I have a day where I'm acting and a day where I'm playing music, the transition between them is really easy. It just feels like I've just been doing them for so long. They just feel like they're the same sides, different sides of the same coin kind of thing. Of
Yeah.
like there's storytelling in it, there's creativity in it, there's something that makes me feel mentally good.
Yeah.
So
Which that's the bottom line.
yeah. I mean, that's the thing in a lot of this. You want to tell stories, but it's also like there is just the hopelessly selfish component of this of like, oh, I feel good when I do that. It like balances me out in some way to do something creative.
Yeah, not bad. Not bad.
Yeah, man.
Well, Wes, you got an open invitation. Anytime you got something going on, please come back. We got
Thanks,
to,
dude.
at some point, maybe we can get together and actually play like a live D&D game.
That would be like the 10 out of 10 experience on this. This would be top notch. We should chat when the next Sanderson thing comes out. I think I was checking the next Stormlight's supposed to be 84% done or something now. So,
yeah. And knowing him, it'll be out like next week.
Oh, I know. I saw it. I was like 84%. Like that's like less than a month in Sanderson time.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's out. Oh, my gosh, he's so prolific with that stuff.
Yeah, man.
Well, okay. So before we go, Wes, run us through your social media again.
Yeah. At Wes Mack Music. You can find me everywhere. That's me on Instagram, Facebook, X, formerly known as Twitter, Snapchat, TikTok, the whole shebang. Just at Wes.
You're
Mack
everywhere.
Music. Yeah. Just in limited supply. But yeah, and it's MACK. Beyond that, no, I guess that's it. That's me.
That's you. Well, Wes, thank you so much, and definitely you have to come back. We got to make it a trilogy.
Yeah. No, dude, I'm down anytime. I always love chatting with you and just getting to delve into everything we delve into, man.
Yeah. We like the nerdy stuff.
Yeah, I made sure to wear the D&D shirt. I mean, I am playing later today, but I was like, oh yeah.
You did good.
Yeah, I mean, because that's my favorite stuff. The nerdy stuff is the best stuff.
It is the best stuff.
I know. There's nothing I enjoy more.
Yeah, same. All right, Wes, hang on 1 second. One of my favorite people, love him as a singer, love him as an actor, but just as a person, one of my favorite people, Wes Mack. Second time he's been on the show. I guarantee we'll have him as a third time. We just really enjoy the conversation. So I hope you do as well. Definitely, if you didn't check out our first interview with Wes, we go through what got him into acting, how he got started as a musician, all of that. So definitely check out our first interview. It's terrific one to bring him back on because he's got the album out. He's on Transplant. Thought it was really good to talk to him. My opinion, one of the more talented people out there. He can do about anything. Just really, really good. If you're finding us for the first time, thank you. We really appreciate that. In addition to checking out Transplant and Wes's new album, Hummingbird, I hope that you will support us. We could really use the help. It's easy to do. It's free. If you prefer to watch, our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. We just ask that you subscribe. Really helps us out. If you're a listener, just wherever you listen at, just subscribe there. That'll help us as well. You can find, we're getting close to hitting 700 episodes, and you can find all of those audio and video on our website, meistercon.com. So definitely check us out there. If we have anything going on in studio, if we're going on location, covering a convention, anything we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. Thank you guys so much. Until next time, bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. You know, not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. You know, those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, you know, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.